Thank you, James. Joining us now to discuss criminal defense attorney Will Bruzzo, also constitutional law attorney Randy Zelin. Randy, what's your thought about what is going on here?
Well, I will tell you, maybe not surprisingly, I was surprised at Mrs. Paulenti's victim impact statement. Obviously, she's not a victim, so just let's call it an impact statement. But I think if I were advising her, I would have had her, as a mother, reach out to the Floyd family. You're not going to damage your son's appeal, but certainly to really make it about Derek and what Derek has suffered and what the family has suffered. George Floyd is dead. And for that to be dismissed and ignored, I think that was a critical mistake. I think the other mistake, candidly, we're not at a bazaar. We're not negotiating a house. For the defense to come in at probation, given the facts and circumstances of this case and given that video, I don't see them giving the judge a lot of room to maneuver. I think it was unrealistic to certainly say, well, if they're at 30 and I'm at 0, maybe we'll get 15. That's not how you approach a criminal case. You've got to be far more principled. For me,
I'm sorry. Wait. Can we just? Sorry to interrupt you, Randy, but I think that was that a live shot that we were looking at? No, that was not.
Okay.
I think that's actually when he was found guilty. Sorry, I thought something was happening there that we needed to pause and listen to.
Yeah, we also wanted to give Will a chance to weigh on this. Randy, we'll get back to you in a second. Your thoughts, Will?
So I agree with Randy. I think having the mother perhaps also recognize the pain of the Floyd family, because of course their sacrifice, their loss is much greater. I think that was perhaps a strategic mistake. None of it's going to make a difference in my mind. This is one of those rare cases where we have a video, or rather a murder on video. It just doesn't happen very often. And this is an aggravated situation. I mean, this cop tortured George Floyd. So I don't know that the victim impact statements or anything in mitigation is going to help the defense here. In my view, I think he should get the maximum. I know the prosecutors are asking for 30 years. The maximum is 40. I think this is deserving of the maximum just to show respect to the victim here, what he underwent. I think it's necessary to demonstrate to the people that we are serious about police murdering people.
Yeah.
But should that be the case, though? I mean, and should it be contingent, his sentencing, based on what the public thinks should happen? Because, I'm not using your legal speak there, but it sounds like that's what you're saying.
So, part of sentencing is to punish. You're punishing the person who committed the crime. But the other thing you're doing is you're setting the example. You're showing the public and, quite frankly, other police officers, listen, we're not going to tolerate this nonsense. You have to show respect to your fellow humans, whether you're a cop or not. And Derek Chauvin showed absolutely no respect. He treated George Floyd like a dog, and he needs to be punished appropriately.
Okay. Quick question, Randy, very quickly. How much of the decision is made before the judge actually walks into the room?
I would say probably 90%, and the judge reserves 10% in case he hears something that moves him either to come down or angers him where he goes up.
Okay.
Yeah, and as if you were watching from home, we did have in a screen there what was happening live inside the courtroom, and we do expect the judge to have something to say just shortly. So we're going to stretch a little bit for you here in anticipation of that. But going back to you, Will, I want to stick with basing a sentencing on public opinion or what the reaction may be from the public, because we've also discussed this fear that there will be violence in the streets should it not be the highest possible sentencing, which we know the prosecution is only asking for 30 years, but it could be 40. Could have been.
We're not talking about public opinion, because this is a legal decision. We have a judge who appears to be very experienced. It's not based on public opinion. What you're doing is you're sending a message, and that is an appropriate consideration on sentencing, that certain conduct is unacceptable, especially when it comes to a police officer. We're not going to cut a police officer a break because he's a cop when he kills someone. The opposite. We hold him to a higher standard because we expect more from him. As the prosecutor mentioned in his sentencing argument, Derek Chauvin was trained on how to deal with these situations, and he ignored his training, and he knew what he should have done, and he ignored that, and he treated George Floyd like something less than human. And Derek Chauvin isn't the only one. So this message, while it's only, as far as this judge is concerned, pertains to perhaps Minneapolis, but this is a national message that's being sent. We're not going to take it anymore. You have to show respect to everyone, including if you're a cop.
Yeah, Randy, I think a lot of people get a little nervous, though, when you think of a judge responding to public pressure. They don't live in a vacuum, but I think most of us, and this has nothing to do with this case in particular, most of us like to think the legal system is not about what the public thinks.
You are absolutely right. However, to Will's point, when you look at the goals of sentencing, and we can borrow from federal law because federal law really spells out the goals of sentencing. In fact, there's a statute called the sentencing factors. You're talking about promoting respect for the law. You're talking about just and certain punishment. And you're also, to Will's point, talking about general deterrence. Does anyone believe that Derek Chauvin will commit a crime like this in the future? You'd like to say no, but then again, he does have a history. But let's assume that answer is no. There's still general deterrence. There's still promoting respect for the law and just punishment. And yeah, the judge is human. And I don't think the judge wants to feel as if he is responsible for Minneapolis burning if he decides to give away the store. But again, to your point, you're right. The judge has to be above that fear.
And not justifying what Derek Chauvin did, but no one here has mentioned, I mean, I'll say it, and I'm going to get blasted on social media, but George Floyd had his own history. And was on drugs at the time that all of this happened.
Listen, you're right for bringing it out, whether it's a popular point or not. I think, though, and what I thought you were going to say is, it's not as if Derek Chauvin intended to kill George Floyd. What would you sentence Derek Chauvin in that backdrop? And that's where I see 40 years maybe being a little too steep, because this is unintentional murder, and I could see the judge coming in at 20 to 25.
Okay.
All right.
But I don't think it's it may
You
be
know what, gentlemen, we want to take a break and come back and listen into the courtroom. So, Will and Randy, if you don't mind standing by, we're going to take a little break. We'll come right back with more of American Agenda. Thank you, gentlemen.